Hi, this is Remembering the Past, the show where we talk about people who've died recently who've had a profound effect on our history, our society, or our culture. We're going to cover a lot of ground tonight. We're going to start with Yisrael Kristal, who died recently at 113, just a month short of his 114th birthday. He was the oldest man in the world who lived through both world wars and survived the Auschwitz concentration camp. He was a nice Jewish boy born to an Orthodox Jewish family near the town of Zarno in Poland in 1903. He was orphaned shortly after World War I and moved to Lodz to work in the family confectionery business in 1920. During the Nazi occupation of Poland, he was confined to the ghetto there, and later he was sent to Auschwitz and other concentration camps. His first wife and two children were killed in the Holocaust, and he survived World War II weighing only 81 pounds. He was the only survivor of his large family. He later married another Holocaust survivor and moved with her to Israel in 1950, where he built a new family and a successful confectionery business. He participated in one of his great-grandson's bar mitzvahs just a few weeks ago, and he himself celebrated his bar mitzvah last year, 100 years later than usual. He missed his bar mitzvah because of World War I. Last year, the Guinness Book of World Records awarded Mr. Kristal a certificate as the world's oldest man at his home in Haifa, Israel. We're going to move on now to Joe Bologna, who died recently at the age of 82. Nice Italian boy born in Brooklyn, and he was an excellent stage and screen actor. He's a good-looking guy with a good physique, and his breakthrough role was with his wife in the 1970 film Lovers and Other Strangers. He was nominated for the Academy Award for Best Adapted Screenplay for that. He also starred opposite Michael Caine in Blame It on Rio, and he was in Transylvania 65000. But his signature role, the one he'll always be known for, is in the great 1982 film My Favorite Year, starring Peter O'Toole. Joe Bologna plays Stan King Kaiser, who's a thinly veiled Sid Caesar. And the movie's a thinly veiled story about the Sid Caesar show with a thinly veiled Errol Flynn played by Peter O'Toole. But as I said, Joe Bologna is wonderful as Stan King Kaiser, and here he is in a scene with Boss Rojak played by Cameron Mitchell. He's a mobster who gets made fun of on the show and wants to shut it down, and winds up getting his cashmere coat thrown out of a window.
Where are you going? With you. What for? To meet Boss Rojak.
Stan, what's the matter with you? You think he's here because he likes the Boss Hijack sketch? You think he likes being made a fool out of by you in front of 20 million people every week?
I don't know.
Stan, he's here because he wants us to drop the Boss Hijack sketch.
Think so? Let's go find out.
All right. Maybe you better change first.
Why?
Well, that outfit might set him off.
Jack, sir, I think you've made a wise decision to come here. I think these gentlemen will be able to talk to us about our problem and hold you away. Sure, let's see. Reason, sir, there should be no problem whatsoever. Oh. Myron Fine?
I'm Leo Silva. This is King Kaiser.
What do you say, Myron?
My client, Carl Rojak.
Carl? It's not Boss.
Stan, gentlemen.
We'll all be sitting down, Mr. Rojak. I'm sure we're all aware that my client, Mr. Rojak, is one of the most respected labor leaders in America today.
Oh, that's why they subpoenaed him.
Stan.
Mr. Kaiser, a subpoena is not an indictment. Now, it has come to our attention that on two separate occasions, September 4th, 1954, and September 18th, 1954, a character referred to as Boss Hijack was portrayed in your television program. We feel that this character, to a great degree, is based upon my client.
That's you, Carl.
According to our lawyers, your client is a public figure, and as such, has already forfeited certain rights of privacy.
Granted, however, even though Mr. Rojak concedes that point, he feels that the portrayal of said character is slanderous and defamatory and done with malicious intent, therefore abrogating the public figure defense and rendering it to it actionable.
Did you say that, Carl? What a guy.
That's it. I want to clear some things up here.
Oh?
This is a stupid show. And that is a stupid suit. And I don't want to see it no more.
Hey, take it easy, Carl. I mean, if you really don't want to see it no more, then don't watch.
Stan!
Let me explain something to you, Carl. We're going to keep on doing the sketch. You know why? Because it's funny. And in my business, you never cut funny.
Funny, Let me tell you about the business I'm in. I'm in the removal business. Now, if I were to feel that this stupid thing from this stupid show was bothering me, I'd remove it. You see, it's gone, and I feel good. Now, that's how the removal business works. Do I make myself clear?
I think everyone understands, Mr. Rogers.
No, wait. I'm not clear about a couple of things here. What you're saying is that in this removal business, if something bothers you, like say this, then you remove it.
Stan, that is a cashmere coat.
Like that. Stan! You're right. You do feel better. I like the removal business.
I want you.
Come on. Come and get me.
Joe Bologna in a classic performance, and catch my favorite year if you can. We're going to move on now to sports and do 3 sports figures. We're going to start with Betty Cuthbert, who died recently at the age of 79, one of the greatest athletes in Australia's history. As a sprinter and a medium distance runner, she was the Golden Girl. She won 3 gold medals at the Melbourne Olympics in 1956, so it was a hometown thing, and then she won a 4th gold medal in the Tokyo Olympics in 1964. In the Melbourne Olympics, she was the track and field equivalent of swimmer Murray Rose, whose podcast we've done, and in 1998, Australia named her a national treasure. Here's a newsreel from the 1956 Olympics on Betty Cuthbert.
The next games were dominated by Australia's Golden Girls. In 1956, 18-year-old Betty Cuthbert beat East Germany's Christa Stubnik and fellow Australian Marlene Matthews in the 100-metre final. In the 200-metre final, the same runners were again involved, and for the only time in Olympic history, the medal placings in the 2 sprint events were exactly the same. Cuthbert first, followed by Stubnik and Matthews. Cuthbert's 3rd gold followed in the 4x100-metre relay. 8 years later, Betty Cuthbert won her 4th gold medal in the 400 metres in Tokyo.
After her athletic career was over, she lived most of the rest of her life with debilitating multiple sclerosis. But she fought the disease bravely and served as an inspiration to all Australians, and there's an impressive statue of her that's been constructed outside the cricket ground in Melbourne. We're going to move on now to Don Baylor, who died recently at the age of 68. Great ball player, primarily with the Baltimore Orioles and the California Angels. Nice African-American boy born in Austin. He was a distant relative of NBA Laker great Elgin Baylor. He was actually the first African-American to be offered a football scholarship at the University of Texas when Texas was a powerhouse, but he turned it down to play baseball. And he went through the ranks being managed by Earl Weaver, whose podcast we've done, who, as you know, was a tough guy. And in the Winter League, his mentor was Frank Robinson, the Orioles star, who was also a very tough guy, who got hit by a lot of pitches, and that's where Don Baylor learned to get hit by pitches. He was the league leader in that many times during his career. He was the American League MVP for the California Angels in 1979, and he also was the Manager of the Year for the Colorado Rockies in 1995. He's the only person to win both of those awards. As I said, big, strong guy, very tough on the field, very nice guy off the field. And here's his Oriole teammate Jim Palmer to talk about Don Baylor.
Jim, how about your memories of the man they called Groove?
Well, I met him actually earlier than when he came to Baltimore, because when I hurt my shoulder, I was down in the instructional league in Clearwater for about seven weeks. So, we used to have every Monday was an off day, and we'd always play flag football on the beach. And I always made sure that Don was on my team. If you ever saw him, tremendous physical specimen. And we're on the field here today. I mean, it's a sad day, Tom and Rick, because I think anybody that, either knew Don as a teammate or as a coach or as a manager or as a fan realized that he played the game. And Bobby Gritch and I were talking. I said, he was a gentle guy, but he played with a ferocity but played the game fair. And Bob looked at me. Bobby Gritch said, "You know what?" He said, "If you were a middle infielder," he said he would knock you on your rear end and then say hello to you at dinner. So he was a marvelous player, a great guy. I can't imagine that coming up, and playing winter ball down in Puerto Rico for Frank Robinson, that Frank, who was a similar type of player, played the game the way it's supposed to be played, respected it and whatever, didn't teach him a little bit of that. But, when baseball, and I mean everybody involved in this game, loses somebody of that magnitude, it's a sad day.
Well, our last sports figure tonight is Frank Broyles, who died recently at the age of 92, the legendary football coach and athletic director at the University of Arkansas. For a long time, he was synonymous with Arkansas sports. Actually, he was a great quarterback in the 1940s for Georgia Tech. He led them to 4 bowl appearances and held the Orange Bowl record for passing yards until Tom Brady broke it in 2000. As a coach, he led Arkansas to their only national championship in football in 1964, came very close in 1969, lost by 1 point to Texas in a legendary game, which we talked about when we did the James Street podcast. He won almost 150 games in 19 seasons as the Razorbacks head coach, and then he became the athletic director, and his most important accomplishment was taking Arkansas out of the Southwestern Conference and moving it into the Southeastern Conference. Southwestern Conference was financially unstable. Southeastern Conference, well, that's money in the bank. Before he became the athletic director at Arkansas, he did a couple years in the booth as a football announcer with Keith Jackson. Oh, Nelly, you got some great Southern stuff because they were both from Georgia.
Number 25 is the fullback. He has to take pride in his work, and he made an outstanding block that allowed Walker to go in for the touchdown.
Later in his career as athletic director, there were some irregularities in the program, and he also had some squabbles with some of the wealthy alumni about where to play the home football games. But all in all, it didn't really tarnish his reputation, and he remains, more than any other person, the face of Arkansas football and Arkansas athletics in general. So hey, I think he deserves a little bit of the Arkansas fight song. Well, I'm going to close on that note. I want to thank my producer and IT genius, Sid Caesar, and we're going to close tonight with Haruo Nakajima, who died recently at the age of 88. He was a Japanese actor. He had a bit part in the classic Akira Kurosawa film Seven Samurai, but his main claim to fame is that he was seen probably more than any Japanese actor and maybe more than almost any actor, and they never saw his face because in 1954 he donned 200 pounds of rubber suit, and rubber was hard to come by in post-war Japan, and he became Gojira, or as he's known in the United States, Godzilla. He played Godzilla and went to the Tokyo Zoo to learn to walk like Godzilla and generally act like Godzilla. There are 2 theories on the original Godzilla movie. The first is that it was an allegory for nuclear war, seeing as how it came out 9 years after the atomic bombs were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And the second theory is that it was just a scary monster movie in an era when scary monster movies were being made. It is one of the best monster movies, but to get it to play in the United States, not only did they have to dub it, but they had to put some extra footage in with an American actor, so they used a young Raymond Burr after Rear Window, but 5 years before Perry Mason and 10 years before Ironside. Here is the trailer for the original Godzilla.
This is Tokyo, once a city of 6 million people. What has happened here was caused by a force which, up until a few days ago, was entirely beyond the scope of man's imagination.
Now let's have it, Steve. What about this monster story of yours?
Well, it's big and terrible. Now he's making his way toward the city's main line of defense. 300,000 volts of electricity strung around the city as a barrier.
I can hardly believe what has just happened.
Now it seems Tokyo has no defense. I'm saying a prayer, George. A prayer for the whole world. Steve Martin signing off from Tokyo, Japan.
Well, to close, I didn't like any of the Godzilla songs, but when you need fire and death, who better to turn to than Richard Wagner? And so here's a little bit of the Götterdämmerung, or Twilight of the Gods.